with one another, learn about things that are going on in our area, and then look for ways to connect and work together to make a difference in our community. My name is Leah Ashford. I'm on the board of City Ministry Network, and I'm looking forward to our discussion today. It's about how do we get involved in civic engagement, supporting our elected officials, maybe even all the way up to becoming an elected official ourselves. So looking at that, and looking forward to our speaker that'll be with us here today. So for those of you who are on Facebook, if you could just do a quick post and say you're here at Catalyst this morning. Follow City Ministry Network and make people aware that it's happening today. And we would also like to thank our sponsors. Today we're specifically thanking Rolling F, your credit union, yes, and all the work that they do. But we have quite a few wonderful sponsors who help make sure that this can happen every month, and we're grateful for each one of them. So as we think about political engagement, just to kind of get your mind going in that direction, I'd like to ask you guys a few questions. So, and all you have to do is raise your hand. So, Noemi, yeah, here's the first one. Have you ever complained about a government official? Either out loud or in your head? Raise your hand. Okay. Next one, have you ever said, somebody should do something about that? Something in our city or our county? Yes. Okay, next one. Have you ever signed a petition or actually reached out to and contacted an elected official about something? Awesome, look at that. You guys are engaged. Love it. Okay, have you ever attended or watched online a city council or board of supervisors meeting? Look at this group. Awesome. Okay, have you ever volunteered to help with a political campaign in some way? Okay. Yeah, donating works. Yeah, love that. Yeah, okay. And have you ever seriously thought, maybe I should run for something? Ooh, I love it. I love it. Then I could really make a difference. Yes, okay. And then have you ever actually been encouraged by someone to run for office? Okay, wonderful. How many in here have actually run for office? Okay, yay! It's our table over in the corner. We love it. Okay. All right, around your tables, we like to give people a chance to get to know each other, find out what, introduce yourself, find out what each one of you is doing in the community, and then if you would, discuss these two different questions. Where do you already feel like you have influence? Where do you feel like you don't? And when you hear getting involved in the political process, what comes to mind? So if you would, discuss that around your tables. Thank you. All right. I love seeing, oops, did I turn this off? Hello? Am I on? I'm on. Okay. I love all the conversations going on around the table. That's great. Before we get started with our speaker today, you'll notice there's some 3x5 cards on the table there. And as Megan is speaking today, if you have questions, go ahead and write them down. If you have questions already that you're thinking of from your discussion around your table about what it takes to be involved in politics, feel free. And then David will collect them at the end, and we'll ask a few questions and have Megan speak to those. So I'm excited to invite Megan up to speak today. Megan is an attorney and the owner of Point Political, which is an organization that helps prepare people for elected office. She has practiced law in areas related to municipal law, land use, and statewide impact litigation. There we go. Oh, that's a mouthful. Tougher. Yeah, litigation. She later worked for the California state legislature in various roles, including chief of staff to then Assembly member Adam Gray, and as a policy consultant on issues related to homelessness, access to medical care, and water resources. She founded the Stanislaus County Political Leadership Academy, which is a nonpartisan program created to provide information and tools to regional leaders who are interested in running for office in the future. She attended Wellesley College and received her Juris Doctorate from Boston University School of Law. She was born and raised in Modesto, and so local, and currently lives in Modesto with her husband and 2 children. So welcome, Megan. Yes. There you go. Do I need to give you this?
Is this one? Yeah. Well, thank you all so much for having me here today, bright and early. I appreciate being here with you, and I want to, first off, everyone can just take a collective sigh of relief, because I promise we're not going to talk about politics for the next 20 minutes. So it's all going to be all right. But what we are going to talk about is political engagement and what that looks like, and the importance of all of us being engaged, particularly on the local level. Next slide. Is there a clicker? Okay, no problem. So as Leah mentioned, I founded the Stanislaus County Political Leadership Academy in 2024. So my background, I was kind of born and raised with an interest in politics and political engagement. Growing up, my uncle was what you would think of as like a super volunteer. So he, as far back as I can remember, voting was always incredibly important. We walked precincts every election cycle. We went to all sorts of events. He roped my parents in. So we all got involved. So I grew up with kind of a deep understanding of the importance of civic engagement. I ultimately volunteered on campaigns. I later started working on campaigns. And at this point, I've been working in government or politics for over 15 years or so in varying capacities. I did practice law, but once you get the political bug, it's kind of hard. And so I practiced law for a while, but then decided that I wanted to come back to the government side. The reason why I wanted to start the Political Leadership Academy is because for some time I kept seeing kind of a familiar process unfold. So as a political consultant, there would be times every election cycle in which someone would make an appointment to come see me. And typically it would be about 2 weeks before the filing deadline for whatever political office was coming up, right? So someone would come, have a meeting and say, hey, my name is Mariah. Mary Ann Cannon, hypothetically, told me that I should probably run for school board. And now I want to come talk to you about what that's going to involve. And so I say, great. And we sit down and we talk about all of the things. You know, this is what filing looks like. You know, this is what your actual campaign is going to look like. This is the sort of money you're going to have to think about raising. This is your time commitment. These are the things that you need to be thinking about. At which point, 99% of the time, the person said, absolutely not. I was already nervous about this, and now that you tell me that all these things go into it, I cannot make that decision for myself and also for my family over the course of 2 weeks. And so we lost a lot of individuals who otherwise would have been really fantastic leaders who just didn't feel like they had the foundational knowledge necessary in order to make that big decision. Because nobody wakes up one morning and suddenly knows how to run for office. You can ask that table over there. And also some folks over here. It's a lot, and it's a lot of information that you just don't naturally know. And so unless you're exposed to it, unless you're a political staffer or something like that, it's really not going to be ingrained. So the goal of creating the academy was to create something that's regionally based. There are a lot of political leadership academies that exist across the state and across the country that do try to get candidates to run, particularly for local office. But those are very often based on identity. So political party, there are ones that are for Democratic women of color, there are Republican-only incubator programs, there are all kinds of programs that exist, but none of them are specific or were specific to Stanislaus County and the sorts of issues that we see. So when we created the academy, I really wanted it to be nonpartisan, and I'm going to talk more about that and why I wanted it to be nonpartisan. But as I said, it really was born out of conversations with leaders across this community, some of them in this room actually, saying how do we do a better job in Stanislaus County of basically building a bench of people, right? When an opportunity arises, we know that we have this group of people who have already expressed interest in taking on these leadership roles, and they already have a foundation where they feel like they know enough. And I wanted to also foster collaboration between individuals, and that's part of the nonpartisanship as well. Students in the class, which I'll talk more about, get to engage with one another, with people who have different political ideologies, and it really does mimic in some way what they end up finding when you actually do run, when you actually do serve on a board, because you'll serve with people who have very different ideas. And also, foundationally, it was to encourage civic engagement, and that's voting, actually running, and then volunteering to help other people in their campaigns. Next slide. So I like to start talking about political engagement by talking about who votes. So we live in a very interesting place from a political perspective. There are 58 counties across this state, and Stanislaus County has the closest split between Democrats and Republicans of any county in the state. We are the most purple county in the state. Yeah, and it's really, we are the closest, yes. And it's really interesting because when you look at different election cycles, it kind of goes back and forth. So right now we have a little bit more Republicans than we do Democrats. Last election cycle, we had a few more Democrats than we did Republicans. And so it does make holding elected office in Stanislaus County very, very unique. Because when you look at, let's just take San Francisco County, for example. Everybody's the same party, right? So you don't really have to compromise much. You don't really have to sit there and engage with people who have dramatically different ideas about certain things, right? But in Stanislaus County, you really do. You'll also see that there's this 58,910 number here, DTS and PP. Those are declined to state, no party preference voters. And one of the things we've seen is, particularly with younger voters, and as we've gone on through time, that number keeps going up. And so those are individuals who declined to state, no party preference, a lot of them who used to be registered Democrats or registered Republicans, or people who are registering to vote for the first time, feeling as though they don't really fit necessarily very squarely into one of those categories. And that is actually on the rise. So in November of 2024, I worked on 2 campaigns, and for the very first time, both of those candidates were no party preference registered voters, which is really, really interesting. It was the first time that happened, so that's really on the rise. Below, you'll see the percentage of individuals who vote in each election, because I think particularly in groups like this, everyone in this room is tremendously engaged, and so sometimes when you're really engaged, you take for granted, and you're like, well, yeah, everybody votes, they mail you a ballot, so you're gonna fill it out and you're gonna turn it in, but that's really not the case. What we see is that particularly in primary elections, you'll see here 26.8%, 27.7%. In presidential primaries, more people vote. And more people vote in presidential general elections, so you'll see that that number is higher. You'll also see in the 2020 presidential primary, that number was higher because we were in the midst of COVID. People didn't have anything else to do but to vote. So that was a weird one. But you'll notice that even in a presidential general election, we're still at 68, approaching 70%. So there are a lot of people who aren't voting. So first takeaway, easiest thing you can do coming out of this presentation is to return your ballot and make sure everyone you know also returns their ballot. And beyond that, these numbers that we see in terms of people voting, oftentimes those individuals are voting for president, governor, senator, assembly member. But when they get way, 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 way down to the bottom of the ballot and they see healthcare district, sanitary districts, they see Yosemite Community College district, some of these other races, sometimes they just skip them because they don't know. So there's a lot of undervoting that happens on some of our local races. So the numbers for those races are even smaller than what you're seeing there. Before we go to the next slide, I have a little bit of a pop quiz. How many people do you think represent Stanislaus County from the President of the United States all the way down to your community service districts, water districts, school boards, central committees? Anybody have a number they want to guess?
85.
What was that?
85.
85. Okay. Anybody else?
Maybe more. Over 200.
Over 2. Okay. Do I have 3? Do I have 4? you can turn the slide. It's actually over 400.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. So I think it's 412. It's a lot of people. So, and again, that's from President of the United States down to your Democrat and Republican central committees, which are elected. But it's a lot of people. The list is 17 pages long. And there will be a QR code later where you can go to that list. And what you find is that, one, people have absolutely no idea that many people are involved in our government. No one has ever gotten that question right. Because we just don't have a frame of reference that that's what's going to happen. And so many of those seats, particularly on the smaller side of things, you've got your municipal advisory councils, your MACs, sanitary districts, as I mentioned, the central committee, fire protection districts. A lot of these positions, nobody runs for them, so they get appointed. And a lot of times they have to, like, board of supervisors finds people, or we're like scrambling to find people to fill these seats, which is unfortunate because every single one of those 412 people have a role to play and have decisions that are important. I like to talk about, things that people don't think about very often, like sanitary districts, for example. Well, if you want to grow a city or you want to grow an unincorporated area and there's a sanitary district, in order to develop housing, you got to go ask the sanitary district if there's capacity, and you have to get a will serve letter. Those are people who are making decisions that are going to impact whether or not you can fill housing needs in the community, and that's incredibly important. Things like Yosemite Community College District, it's often really tough to get people to want to run for that, or to get voters to even know what it is or what they do. It's incredibly important. The individuals who are on the Yosemite Community College District Board make decisions for a community college system both at MJC and Columbia. They make decisions on the budget, how many spots, whether we're gonna, how many spots we're gonna have for nursing, which is a huge opportunity. There are so many decisions that they make that a lot of times we just don't really think about. One of the things you'll notice in the background, the 2 purple people are high-fiving. And this is where, bear with me, I get a little Pollyannish in a way, some people think, and we'll talk more about that. Because Stanislaus County is so different, and because we're somewhat rural, and we kind of are here in the Central Valley in the middle of the state, I really think that all of these 412 people, in particular all the people who are local, really, really need to be working together, right? And an example of that, if you look at the California State Assembly, there are 80 assembly members, right? 2 of those assembly members represent Stanislaus County, 2. 24 of them represent Los Angeles County in some way, shape, or form. So if you're LA and you have an issue that is kind of specific to Los Angeles, you have a 23 additional person coalition that you can build to get something done. If you're from Stanislaus County and you need to get something done, you got one guy. And so the reason I say that is because we need our city council people, our mayors, our community college districts, sanitary districts, we all have to work together, right? So that we can build a coalition necessary to make sure that our needs are heard and met, both in Sacramento, in DC, and other places. And so it's really incumbent upon all of us to work together. All right, before we go to the next slide, think to yourself, why do you think more people don't run for office? You don't have to say it out loud, but formulate in your mind why you think it is. And you can do the next slide now. So when I teach the class that I teach, the 6-week class, 24 people have gone through it so far. These are individuals who've self-identified as people who might want to run for office in the future. And we spend a lot of time the first day talking about why more people don't run. And it's really interesting. Fear, somebody that I didn't expect, he just raised his hand. He's like, I'm afraid. And a lot of people said, yeah, they agreed. Having no idea where to start when it comes to running a campaign. All of the horrible negativity in politics these days. The time commitment, because it's tremendous. It's a tremendous time commitment to both campaign, but then also to hold the elected position. The fundraising element of it. Oftentimes people don't know where they're gonna raise the money. And then a lot of people don't necessarily know if they can really make a difference. Because one of the things that we're seeing is that there's this pervasive negativity and skepticism that encompasses kind of everything political these days whenever you think about politics. So if you look at the data there, over half of Americans say that all or most elected officials ran for office to make money. Folks at that table. Is that why we ran? Okay. No? Didn't think so. Okay. And so if you look at it, I mean, 63% of respondents, and this is a Pew Research Group poll, it's from 2023, but 63% say that all or most of elected officials ran to make a lot of money. And they even asked, this wasn't just federal, this is elected office in local, state, and federal governments. This was across the board. 57% said that all or most ran so that they could get to higher office in the future. 54% to get fame and attention for themselves. And then you get way down here, 22% to address issues that they care about, said that all or most. And then a whopping 43% said that few or none ran to actually serve the public.
Wow.
And so when we live in this space in which we truly think that 43% of people said few or none actually ran to serve the public, it's really, really hard to get individuals to want to answer the call and run when that few number of people actually think that they're doing it for the right reasons. And that's one of the reasons why it's gotten so tremendously hard. You can go ahead and click to the next slide. And this is part of the core issue, right? When people, when I started this, I said, we're not going to spend 20 minutes talking about politics, right? And everybody, you really do sigh because people are often exhausted and angry when you're thinking about politics. 65% of the respondents said that they were always or often exhausted when thinking about politics, and 55% that they are always or often said that they're always or often angry. And that really has become the norm overall when it comes to politics. But on the upside, 43% said that they were always or sometimes hopeful when thinking about politics, and that there was 22% said that they were always or often and sometimes excited. And so those are the people I'm looking for, right? The 43% and then the 22, the 22% that are excited always or sometimes, great, you should run. But even if you're part of the 43 where you still got some hope, right? Because I think that particularly on the local level, we gotta encourage leaders who still have some hope in the system. So for the program, we tried to find the hopeful people, the excited people, and the people who, still felt like they can make a change. And it created this 6-week program. So the goal is really to take all of the foundational elements of running for office, everything that you need to know. Obviously, over the course of 6 weeks, meeting for a couple hours once a week, there is absolutely no way that you're going to learn everything that you need to know. But the goal is so that when people walk out and somebody says, hey, did you do your FPPC filing? They go, they don't stop and go, what on earth is that? Because I'm sure most of you in this room said, I have no idea what FPPC means, right? It's the Fair Political Practices Commission, right? And those are the sort of things that seem so foreign that they really kind of scare people off. And so we talk about the political overview. We talk about how you decide to run, how you build a team. We talk about developing a platform, how you do that, deadlines and filings, the Fair Political Practices Commission, as I mentioned, a budget, fundraising, and endorsements. And we talk about communication methods and different strategies. And then we also do a mock interview at the end so that everybody can get the opportunity to watch themselves interview, and then we record it on Zoom and they have to go back and watch themselves. It's everybody's favorite part, as you can imagine. But it's important, especially now that we're having more, there are more entities like the Modesto Focus. I understand the Modesto Bee is also gonna be doing candidate interviews, and so it's important that people are ready to do these things. And we also had guest speakers every week. And so it was really nice that every week when we were talking about a particular issue, we had an elected official or come in to talk about their own experience. Or we had a campaign professional who was a treasurer or did digital social media for campaigns come in and talk. And at the end of the class, it culminated in a panel of individuals, Democrats, Republicans, and independents who either currently hold office or have held office in the past, talking about their particular experiences representing this community, things they wish they would have known, things that were difficult, things that were encouraging. And so it was really a helpful time for all the participants to ask questions and learn what it's really like to actually hold office in this area. But if you're not ready to run, anybody in here, you ready to run? Have I convinced you? No? You can go ahead and do the next slide. If you're not necessarily ready to run, you can volunteer. And this is something that people don't always think about. There was the question earlier, how many people have volunteered for a campaign, volunteered to help a candidate? It was great that so many of you had. But candidates are always looking for help, because knocking on all those doors and going to events and things, it gets tough, and there's always a place where you can fit in. So Sue, our mayor, had to leave, but one story that she likes to tell is that when she was running for mayor, there was a group of women in the community who came together and said, we won't make phone calls for you, and we will not knock on doors for you, but we will go drop off signs. And so she would give them a list of signs. They would pick the signs up from her front porch and they would just go plant them in the appropriate lawns. And it's tremendously helpful. And you don't think about stuff like that. And you could take a couple hours out of your day, you can help out, and she talks about it all the time. So you can do that. There are also sometimes social issues come up. So you could have a ballot measure or something like that you could help with, which is important. You can also join an organization, whether partisan or nonpartisan, and you can apply for a border commission. That's an important aspect of it, because there are, even if you're not running for office, the county and all of the individual municipalities have boards and commissions. So you can see here these QR codes. I also have a paper that you can take with you, but the top one is the 17-page list of elected officials, if you are interested in what all of those are. And then this is the candidate guide. If you really want to get started, that's the first thing that is helpful. There's a candidate guide that the Registrar of Voters puts out. Look at it, read it. It's very long, but it has all the rules and all the things that you need to think about if you're thinking about running. And then, think about joining a border commission. This is where you find the ones for the county, but if you want to do a border commission, beyond border commission for City of Modesto, you can look it up on the City of Modesto website, or Patterson, whatever city that you're looking into, or you can call their city clerk, because it's a great way to get started and get started engagement and to get that exposure to the decision-making process. And then with that, I will take any questions that you all have. Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
So as you were doing this, well, I'll have to hand it back, but yeah. Oh, good. as she was speaking, if you thought of any questions specific to either Stanislaus County or running for office, if you would go ahead and write them down on the cards and then hold them up for David, and he will bring them up and we'll address those questions. Yeah. Ooh, we got a few. And we may not be able to get to all of them, but
Just trying to go.
yes, we'll address some of them. Okay. You want to ask them and
take
then?
'em?
Do you want to read them, or do you want to?
I can, either way, I can
Yeah.
take them.
Okay, there we go.
I can help.
Yeah. How do we get 20-somethings involved if they don't understand the messages of the candidates? It's a big deal. We need to get more and more young people involved, and it's not easy. And in a way, our campaigns are having to shift and transform, right? We have to change the methods that we've historically used to get in touch with people. There was a time when you just sent a bunch of mailers and knocked on doors and did op-eds to the Modesto Bee, and that's how you ran a campaign. Well, it's not really how we can do it anymore, right? Because you're going to miss a large portion of the electorate. And so we are leaning on different types of messaging, social media, and we got to just make the issues more engaging, right? But we also need to increase access for younger people to run for office and have the tools they need to learn. So I'm actually working on some things that are geared toward younger individuals in our community to get them started learning about how they might get engaged politically as they get older. What is the most common motivation for running for office, and what are some inappropriate motives? Yes. I mean, it really depends on who you ask. I think that, am I going to say that I have never encountered a politician who I thought was holding that elected office for their own personal benefit, right? Whether they just really liked to see their name in the paper, or they, really liked the power that it bestowed on them. Yeah, that absolutely exists. But then you, on the flip side, see other people who just really do have a tremendous heart for service. And I think here in Stanislaus County, I can list many, many, many individuals who really do it because they want to improve the community. And it's thankless in many ways. And I was saying earlier, anytime you make a decision, you're lucky if 50% of the people like what you've decided, right? But chances are you're going to hear from the 50% who didn't, and you're not going to hear from the 50% who did. And so that's one takeaway too. If you like something that's happening, right? Like I drove over Orangeburg where they're doing all that repaving stuff, and there was a huge pothole the day before, and then yesterday the pothole wasn't there, and I was really happy. Well, thank your city council member, right? Like just tell them, hey, thanks for filling that in. And yeah, the inappropriate motivations, narcissism or wanting to see, there are things like that. But at the end of the day, particularly on the local level, nobody's doing this to make money. I mean, that's just unrealistic. There's no money in it. So yeah. What is the most unexpected thing that candidates encounter? It's not really unexpected, but anger from people. I mean, in walking precincts, have had people scream at me and slam doors in my face and say outlandish things. And I know every candidate has had scenarios happen that way. So, anger from voters can happen. And also, we do live in an age where there is negativity in politics, right? So everybody has to think about, is there a potential that a piece of mail could hit that could have something that's not really flattering said about you? That can happen, right? And that, unfortunately, is part of the universe that we live in with politics. And so it's something that I tell every candidate in the beginning that they really need to think about. They need to think about, whether they have a thick enough skin, basically, to take those potential hits that could come. But on the flip side, there are unexpected nice things that happen, right? Sometimes you have, people who become just tremendous volunteers and very, very helpful, and people whose lives that you really change. Somebody contacts you as a government official and asks you for something, and you actually are able to deliver the thing that they requested, and you have a lasting impact on their lives, that's tremendous. So that comes up as well. If someone's running for office now, can they benefit from the program and how? So one caveat, if you are a current elected official or you are currently running for office, you cannot take the class. It has to, because then it turns into like real-time political consulting as opposed to let's theoretically talk about what your future is going to be. So it really is for people who are looking to run sometime in the next 5 years or so. And this one's on a policy level. Policy changes in the works with homelessness and which politicians are actively working on initiatives to help reduce homelessness. I'm happy to talk to you more about that at some point. I think there are initiatives on the local level, but also the state level that there are occurring, and so I'd be happy, whoever that person is, to talk the policy aspect of that after. Do I have stats on results from propositions? What is the trend now for those who have changed parties? I don't have, so if you want to see how Stanislaus County voters voted on a particular issue, standvote.com is our website for our county registrar, and you can actually go back and look at historical election results, and you can see exactly how we voted on every election and every particular office, statewide and federal office, so you can go ahead and take a look at that. And then in terms of Stanislaus County, the trends for who changed parties, like went from Republican or Democrat to decline to state, I don't have those percentages, but you can actually get data and look at it in aggregate to see, for example, there's something in data that we use for campaigns that's called Dem Plus or Reap Plus, right? And that, like, box of data are the people who are currently registered in that particular political party or were formerly registered in that party and are now declined to state voters. So you can kind of know, this person used to be a Democrat, but now they're declined to state, but they're probably still kind of Democrat-like or Republican-like, so that data's all out there, so that exists. All right. I think I got them all. Thanks,
Awesome.
everybody.
Yes, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Very informative, and I hope all of us in the room can either think about getting involved, certainly supporting candidates, but recommending people who we think would make good candidates. We need to make sure we continue to have good leaders in our community. And one thing I was thinking is part of why I love being on the board and involved with City Ministry Network is that she showed that high five of the people. One of the works that City Ministry does that we don't necessarily have a banner for is helping people in elected office get to know each other, learn how to work with each other, get connected to people in underserved communities they may not know. So helping to make those connections within our community, which I love. So Marvin, would you like to come up and do a final?
Okay.
Yeah.
We're not going to do, there's no second question.
Nope.
Okay.
Get mic'd. Yeah.
Thanks.
This is all you.
First
Yeah.
of all, thanks, Megan. Thank you. The big idea here, and then I'm going to come back to you. I'm going to say something nice about you. The big idea is City Ministry Network. All of you are involved somewhere, but you all have circles of influence. So go back and say you could volunteer, you can vote, you could do this, and don't just sit around and watch TV and then criticize. Get involved somewhere. And the other thing too, there were some of the questions where I'm sure were very specific. Well, how about this or how about that? Whatever your specific concern is, you're welcome to talk to some of us and say, who can I go talk to about this? Who can I go talk to about that? And let's give you a list and let you get at it. Not to fight and argue, well, you can do whatever you want. This is America. But how can we support you? How can we celebrate you? How can I get involved and help you or challenge or question? So I'm not talking about George Moffett back there. I'm just saying. No, I just need you to know, that table, we are all friends, and so we had a lot of fun, especially with Doug Ridenauer, the ex-city council member. So we had a lot of fun. We've asked Megan to be a part. I've grown to respect her and really care about her and her vision. When she says nonpartisan, it's been nonpartisan. And in the conversations we had, she was out at Patterson at a leadership initiative that we helped Patterson, some city council members, begin starting there and educating and informing their citizens there about the issues in Patterson. And so I just want you to know she's been a person that has grown, in my mind, with integrity and respect and trust. And I'm honored to be a part with her as much as we can be. We're in a season, we ask our young leaders this question. Now, when we first started Catalyst, it was about 20 some years ago, a small group of people, and we discovered there were so many of us who didn't know individual decision makers, didn't know even what was happening, and now all of you are quite informed. But we do wake up every morning wanting to, how do we develop leaders? How do we engage leaders? How do we get them involved? And we are specific about working in communities now who are looking to understand and know, how do I get involved in the fabric of leadership in our community? Because it seems sometimes so large and so broad and so complicated. But to sit down with somebody, especially a youngster who's, well, I'm 70 years old, so everybody's young. But to say, okay, here's how you can go. Here's some ideas that you can get involved in, and then help them identify what their passion is, and then let them target and go in that direction. And then to celebrate them and cheer for them. But I can tell you, when we first started, there were some very specific qualities of men and women that we were looking for and encouraging them. But the question that we're beginning to ask now, just real quietly, is what kind of leaders does this moment in history require? What kind of leaders in this generation, in this season of history, does our leader require? Or the finishing the question, and you can even talk to some friends around you as they go on during the day, the kind of community leaders this moment requires is what? What are the qualities of those men and women? And that's the thing we are now beginning, as we look at all the leadership development strategies we're working on, beginning to ask ourselves the questions, because 7 or 8 years ago, maybe 10, 12, 15 years ago, there were some different qualities, but what are they now? And there are 4 patterns in community leadership, and then I'm going to be done because I want to let you get a chance to talk to Megan. There are the blow it up and start over people in our community. Let's just blow it up and start over. There are the check it out and give up. And those are, then I want to stop, because sometimes we do get tired and disappointed and burned out, and we just withdraw. We just withdraw. And there are quite a few of those like that. Blow it up, start over, check it out, and give up. Control everything from the top. And so there are some of those that think community change is about the boss, and we are going to, dominate and go and take it from the bottom. Change happens through force and strict control, authority, fear, and power. And then a 4th way, which some have been a part of, is grow people slowly, build relationships, mentor them. And it does cause slow change, but it does cause lasting change. So there is that model as well. Just quiet. They don't get a lot of attention. They don't get a lot of glory, but they are growing people slowly and deeply. And the thing when I think about all 4 of those, blow it up, start over, check out, and give up, control everything from the top, grow people slowly. When you think about those different models, which one has connected with you? And which one connects with you today? And candidly, there are a lot of us who are just tired of all the noise. Where somebody said politics was never about every day, but boy, it seems like everything is, we're just overwhelmed with it all the time. But which approach connects with you? And can you see each approach at work in our community? Is that just me, the 4 different ways? Can you see which ones and where are you? And what kind of leader does our community leaders, does this moment require? In our community, what kind of leaders does this require? What kind of qualities? And this purple thing, that was a blow mine when I saw that too, which means we all have to learn how to figure out how to move people from all kinds of red and blue and purple and pink and all that, so that we can all work together. There are so many times I've felt in the last, just in a while, just very helpless and powerless. There were times in history when I would feel I was so critical of, oh my gosh, how did that country and that ever let that happen? Oh my gosh. And whatever side you want to see that. And at times I've felt quite powerless, except this. I can help shape what happens in our neighborhoods, in our community, and I have incredible power for that. And so this season, whatever it is you want to see it as, we're going to work on what's happening in our community. How do I help others of you in the community colleges and all this? Because that's where I know I can have definite power and influence. Now again, I might be seeing it wrong, and maybe next week I might change. But I want to say to you right now, I'm going to work on the youngsters, and we're going to work on what would leadership look like in influencers, not just today, but in the future. Because the world is in that season. And candidly, I was talking to somebody earlier, in 1860, there was this type of leader, and this was going on in 1860, but it could have been 1830s. I think Megan mentioned the yucky thing about politics. Truth of it is, in America, it's been like this forever. It's been like this from the beginning of our time, the fighting, and that's just the way it's been. I'm not going to tell you it's even acceptable. I'm just going to tell you there it's been. And so we've got to figure out how to work within what we have. So I want to thank you, Megan. Let me give you a couple of different announcements, and then you will get a chance to be a part. The big idea here is get engaged. To get engaged somehow. You are all incredible men and women, and you are all men and women of influence who have circles of other people that you can influence. So grab somebody and go celebrate or advocate or get involved. But the time of sitting around on the couch really it's not a good time to do that right now. So let me give you a couple of different things. May Catalyst, we want to celebrate what is happening at the Gospel Mission. So when we lost Downtown Street Team, the mission took over and the city has contracted with them. So we're going to get a look at Hope Works and where second chances go to work, and we're going to have clients that are already working. You see them out in the streets probably this morning. They will be here at each one of the tables, and you'll get a chance to hear their story and find out exactly what's happening in their lives and how this is making a difference for those that have been homeless or have struggled, whatever that would be, or houseless, whatever the word would be. So that'll be next month. In June, we need your help on this. In June, last year we launched a Bridge Builder Award nomination. And this is for outstanding men and women in our community who know what it means to bring people together and to celebrate them. So if you could do the QR code, vote for one person. I know last year somebody voted for one particular person a lot of times. So I think Mike fixed that problem last year. So just vote for one, yeah, it really did 30 times. So it was kind of fun. I didn't know people did that. Okay, so I need to learn. All right, so that's in June. So if you can let us know, we'll celebrate people in June. We'll have a party here in June for those people that you vote for. We're going to promote it even a lot more. Next month is going to be Hope Works, and that's an incredible time. I'm going to end because I want to let you all get some time talking to Megan individually, the yeah buts and what ifs, and how about this. And yeah, I let her know how amazing a group you are, so she's not afraid. You can go ahead and talk to her. So let me pray for us like I always do. Lord, thank you that you've given us this privilege to be in this country where we can engage in all kinds of different ways with decision makers and decision making. Energize us, encourage us. For those of us who just need some encouragement and maybe a good inflection or whatever, injection of hope, give that to us. And Lord, even now, bring to my mind people that I can reflect with them about the kind of leader that our community needs right now. And then let's go do it. In my Lord's name I pray. Amen. You have a good day.